What's up, guys? Looks like we are finally live, and it's early. It's 1:50 p.m. Eastern Time, and the choral portion of this March live show is going to start up at about 2 o'clock, so 10 minutes from now. You guys probably can see the countdown just fine. So let me know how this all sounds. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. It's always nice to start early so we can kind of see where we at technically, because sometimes some goofy stuff could happen as far as like the audio or the video goes. So hopefully it's all right. So just let me know in chat if you can hear me all right, or if I need to turn up the volume, anything of the sort. So welcome you guys. It's a wild world out there. And this is a nice distraction. We're probably going to be getting, so we're in Ohio. And I speculate that within a couple of weeks here, we're going to be following suit with Illinois and Pennsylvania. And all non-essential businesses are going to have to take it easy for a little while. But anyway, I really don't want to talk about that. As you can probably all imagine, you can get that type of coverage and that type of conversation elsewhere on the internet. So what's up, Harkins, Dia, Marquise, Hammies, Reeve, Calypso, some early entrants. Here we go. Mostly Reefs, S2 Minute, Wayne Scott, what's up? Lewis, Karthik, Prabhu. I'm sure I'm missing other folks here. Who's this? Michael Patterson, Robert Warren, Javi, Javy. I think I might have pronounced that correctly. Matthew Parton, Richard Tarr, Omar Medina. Awesome. So thanks you guys for letting me know that the sound is working. That's always a nice little hurdle to overcome. Sometimes, like, especially with software updates, this is cardinal rule. You should never do this when you're broadcasting. But there's a new broadcast version of my software that came out. I'm like, I really shouldn't update this software, but you know what? I'm feeling lucky. So here we go. Just did a software update. I'm like, I really hope that I just didn't totally mess stuff up, because sometimes when I update the software, it'll completely ignore my mic or it'll completely ignore the camera. One of the two things. So far so good. So yeah, let me know, like, how are your tanks doing? I'm guessing a lot of you guys have got a little bit more time to spend around them, and at least we have here. I mean, I think I've paid more attention to my tanks than ever before, because, like, to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of an introvert anyway, and I don't usually like to go out anyway. But now that it's like I'm super incentivized to stay in, yeah, I do spend a little bit more time taking a look, like a hard look at my corals, and I'm noticing a lot of like pretty good results to a couple of things that we've done recently. Like the main thing is like the amino acid stuff. I've gone super heavy on that, and like once we actually get the show underway, I'll expand on that. But before I get too ahead of myself, I do want to quickly say my hellos and thank yous to the Patreon crowd. So these guys are in the $5 and up tier, and they get a shout out during this show. So real quick, it's John J. Jameson, Toby Robinson, Bill Russell, Jeremy Altman, which to please, perfect timing. Look at that, perfect timing. What's up? Ernest Wallace Jr., Dave Davis, Rigoberto Rodriguez, Thomas Tarrant, Keith Singer, Skylar Korn, Sana Nomine. I'm just going to go with that as the pronunciation. I know I've struggled back and forth. I'm just going to go with Nomine unless I hear differently from Sana. Puddle Aquatics, Amy Bruner, Juanita Thralkeld, Tim Garner, Harkins, what's up in chat, Diane Rishworth, Zara McIntosh, Brandy Camp, Gwen Nicodemus, Lisa Clow, Christopher Frame, Chuck Admire, Jean A. Van Voorst, Rika's Aquariums, Christopher H. Curry, Alan Jackson, Kevin Cortez, Trevor Joseph Overbeck, Ryan Kern, and that's it. So thank you guys so much for supporting Tidal Gardens on the Patreons. All right, let's take a look at some comments here. All right. So J Handyman 0 was asking, will there still be shipping? Yes. So we've checked with UPS, and as far as I'm aware, they are one of those absolute necessity industries. So since they're still operating, we are still operating on the shipping. Now, we are offering local pickup for the Northeast Ohio folks that want to come and get their corals. Unfortunately, we can no longer do like a lot of in-person shopping here. There's like a kind of in Ohio, and it's not exactly like a mandate, but it's kind of like a guideline for retailers that's like, you know, if you could chill out a little bit, that would be great. And so we're gonna honor their wishes. And so if you do want to come in and pick up, that is a possibility, but it's pretty much going to be like we hand you your corals and send you on your way. So you can save on shipping, but unfortunately, it's not going to be the most rewarding retail walkthrough experience. So hopefully in the future that will change. I'll mention that again and again throughout the show. Okay, so let's see. S2 Minute. Than, may I ask, what are you using to heat and monitor your QT tanks, please? Good question. So when we originally set up our quarantine tanks, maintaining temperature was a problem because we were using like one of the glass heaters that we just had laying around, and we had like 3 different methods of checking temperature. We had the little infrared gun, we had a couple of different thermometers, and every single one of them read something different. Not particularly helpful, right? So eventually we settled on a pretty decent one with, I think it was a Phoenix, like a titanium one that had its own little temperature monitor. And those were at least more consistent with one another, because I mean, we even had like 2 infrared guns and they were off by 3 degrees. So that's currently what we're running with. We're running with a Phoenix. We pretty much just abandoned all the other forms of monitoring because it was just like not that helpful. They were all wrong. Calypso wanted to say thank you for all you do in this hobby. This hobby should have more people like you. I don't know about that. That's competition, see? No, I'm kidding. Thank you very much, Calypso's Reef. Wayne Scott, got to get coral before they lock us down here. You know, I feel bad for like a lot of the retailers because we derive most of our revenue online, and I know that that is a luxury that is not shared by a lot, not even just in other stores, but just like reef aquarium stores. It's like a whole bunch of businesses are going to be really struggling. I mean, I don't have a feeling. It's like I pretty much know. Matthew Parton, I would like to induce my corals to spawn. Any advice? So I have not done it personally, but when I was over there in the UK, and I did see somebody from the UK say hello, so hello back. So when I was there, I talked to Jamie Craggs, who was one of the pioneers of doing that with Acropora. And if you have a sec, go check, like do a quick YouTube search and find his talk from MACNA. And it was really pretty crazy, pretty insightful. It's going to be very difficult. Hate to say it. We are looking at possibly trying to do something like that here. It's super labor intensive. It's super, you need to be at the right place at the right time. Don't screw it up. And have really tight controls of your system for like temperature, the lighting, the feeding, all of that stuff. You have to be pretty much on point. But yeah, it's I think that is going to be an interesting new frontier. Very interesting stuff. Okay, it looks like we are ready. 2 o'clock. Okay, so when I hit this button, I'm just going to warn you, the stream is going to freak out for a little bit. It might even drop, but I promise we'll be back. Okay, here we go. Hitting the button now. Let's see. Hopefully we're still alive. There's the stutter. Hang in there. Hang in there. It always does this. All right. I always just have to say that. Oh, and here's another thing. It always does this. F, yes. All right, I think we're back. Yeah. Every single time. And you know what's like crazy is that I have that broken into like, so a little behind the scenes stuff. I've had that broken into 2 different scenes in my broadcasting software. So I was thinking the problem is that I tossed it all into one scene. That was my big problem. And that's why I was getting that error. So I'm sorry, I had it broken up into 2 scenes. And so when I switch from one scene to the next, that's the problem, because the next scene is like such a big file. So I said, I'm going to big brain this, right? That's 200 IQ big brain stuff. I'm going to make it one file and have the countdown seamlessly go into the other into the actual broadcast, and it should just go smoothly. Nope, as soon as the countdown hit 0 and went to the first choral, bam, stream goes down. So I don't know. It does not like it. It does not like it. Yeah. So yeah, hey, I don't even know. Don't even know how to fix that. To please. It looks like we're here. Well, we're back. We're back. Let's see. Michael Piper says, long-time viewer, never managed to see the live show. Well, welcome. Welcome, welcome. You've inspired the classroom reef. We need to reset our Patreon donation since we can't order to Canada. No problem. Keep up the awesome work. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Tech Your Talk. What's up? We're smooth again. Nice. And oh, by the way, that does remind me. I need to set out that little thingy here. So I just did a little community post. It's a little poll for the folks that are subscribed and hit the bell and set the bell to freaking, all or whatever it needs to happen. I'm just curious to see if people got the notification, because Tech Your Talk put out a video yesterday, and I knew that I was both subscribed and set to be notified, and I did not get notified. So yeah, and he did a poll on his channel, and about half the people that were subscribed and hit the bell did not get notified. So I'm really hoping that that the notification system actually works. What a novel concept, YouTube. Squidderp12, are you using OBS? No, I'm using Wirecast. Which it's like the not free version of OBS. So there's like a really, really solid argument that I should be using OBS and not this, because it's just expensive for the sake of being expensive, I guess. But I've done this on this platform now for so many years. I feel like I just don't want to change, like old dog, new trick sort of thing, I guess. Nice. To please got the notification. David EWH. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. He got notified. Mac Cunningham got the notification. Good. Nice. At least I'm glad that some folks got the notification. Okay, so Chris Temple says, hello. You are the main reason why I set up my first reef tank. It's a 40 breeder, and I'm loving it so far. I'm only 14, so I have a long way to go in this hobby. That is awesome. I pretty much started when I was like about your age. I was about 8 years old or so. Yeah, one day you might be You might be farming corals or whatever. You never know where it could go. Let's see. The bell doesn't set to notify. You have to click notify under the upcoming event on the channel page. That's interesting because usually like when I go to the channel, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and then on the bell there's like 3 different levels of notification. One of which is don't notify me, which is pretty silly at that point. It's like I've already told you twice I'm interested in this content, and there is a setting to not be notified. Harkin says, I got the notification for the stream, but not the question. There it is. David EWH, appreciate it, but it's pronounced like you. There you go. So it's David U. Dell's Reef, what's up? Okay, so Carlos Rodriguez, setting up a new tank here, wants to see coralline algae. He's wondering, should he seed it or just get corals and just have the coral seeded? So coralline algae, it's one of those things that it's pretty much going to grow regardless of whether you want it to or not. So it's fairly inexpensive. You could probably also get it from a friend. Both ways really work. To be perfectly honest though, when it comes to coralline algae, I think it's the lesser of all evils, because like problematic algae like, you know, hair algae, bryopsis and all that fun stuff, all these different algae are in competition, and coralline just happens to be the prettiest and least deadly of them all to your corals. So that does not mean that they're not completely harmless either, because especially with some slow growing LPS and stuff like that, like coralline algae can kind of inhibit their growth right at the flesh. So it's something to be kind of mindful of, but I guess that is still better than getting hair algae. So I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to try to seed coralline. You're going to get it anyway. Okay, Brett Powell is asking about Duncan corals. Will they harm clove polyps? They're currently closer than I want, and want to know if the cloves should be moved away from the Duncans. So they're probably stinging each other, more the Duncans stinging the cloves, like you kind of had laid out there. They don't have the most powerful sting in the world, but if you just watch your cloves, they'll kind of tell you if they need to be moved or not. I always like to give the corals the benefit of the doubt and the benefit of as much space as possible. So Rob is suggesting for coralline, just use Brock to establish it. Not terribly impressed with the bottled stuff. Okay. Okay, so Karthik is asking, how do you export nutrients? So there's a couple of things that we do. We mainly rely on protein skimming and water changes. That's really about it. Now, in the future, we might play around with some algal filtration, like things like growing chaeto in its own little refugium section, things like that. So Hovan or Jovan, any tips for zoas stretching towards the light? So zoanthids will stretch towards the light if they're not getting enough light. Oftentimes you might get better coloration under more intense lighting, but the polyps will be noticeably more contracted and smaller. I'm not sure what's the most healthy combination of the two, to get like the most dazzling colors, but not necessarily the size and extension that you're looking for, or the size and extension but muted coloration. So again, a lot of it has to do with your lighting. So I missed Calvin Hall's question before that. Should I change my water when the nitrate is high or when the ammonia is high? I'm assuming that you're talking about this at a time when you're cycling the tank. So I'm one of those people that doesn't mind doing water changes during a cycle. I know some people don't like to do. Some people are on the side of you just let the cycle do its thing and don't mess with it. But I actually would like to do water changes during that process. And one of the reasons why is I saw a talk on MACNA, and and I think that like what they said was there are certain there's certain bacteria that they will, so they like, which one was it exactly? I think it's the bacteria that turns ammonia into nitrite. And as it's doing that, like the nitrite itself is kind of inhibiting more bacterial growth. And that kind of hurts the processing then of that ammonia. So I would try to like, you know, keep those levels as dilute as possible to let those bacteria populations, you know, increase to the level where they can be more self-sustaining. I stuttered my way through that. I'm really sorry. I should probably just do a video on like the whole nitrogen cycle to get it up more succinctly. But long story short, I have no problem with doing multiple water changes through the entire cycle process. So whether it's nitrate being high or ammonia being high, I just do it. Keelan is asking, hi Than, I recently started fragging and growing out some ZOAs. How long does it take for you to feel confident in selling a ZOA or polyfrag after cutting? So what I look for is to see if the coral starts to grow onto the substrate. And you can tell that pretty easily because like for us, I don't like to send something that is likely to then fall off of its plug. That's like the most frustrating thing to have happen because you know, glue is only so good with this stuff. And a lot of times the coral doesn't really want to stick to a substrate that way. It wants to grow onto the substrate on its own terms. So for example, like we're looking at item number 22 here, mellow yellow ZOAs. This thing is very likely has been grown onto a substrate, and then we clip around that substrate and then glue that substrate onto the plug. So it's never really just the raw polyps themselves getting stuck down onto something. And if it is, we definitely give it plenty of time to then grow onto it itself. So I need to like find where I was in the chat here. Gabriel Berkey. Oh, okay. Going back to the Coraline stuff. Trevor Nightingale. Did I miss it? Would love to see a video on your 80/20 stands. You can see some past building updates where I cover that, but I think I'm going to do a separate video where I just talk about the 80/20 stands. I mean, soon here I'm going to have plenty of time to think about video topics. Oh, all right. Let's see. Harkins, can you explain the difference between a Hawaiian ZOA and the traditional Indo-Vietnamese ZOAs? Not region, but characteristics. Honestly, dude, I cannot. Like a lot of the, when it comes to ZOAs and locations and stuff like that, it's kind of mystifying because a lot of it is, they're named funny. Like we have like a Caribbean PALYTHOA or something, and it's not Caribbean. It's like named after like a Caribbean blue or something, you know, that sort of thing. So it's not even like necessarily geography. Like I think like Fiji Bam Bams, I don't think they're from Fiji, because like Fiji zoas look a very specific way. Yeah, so I really couldn't tell you exactly, you know, just based on like naming and whatnot, where something might even come from. There's certain characteristics that I look for that are kind of like signature things, like, but I think that's like more species related, and that's not to say that like a larger polyp zoa species from Indonesia couldn't also have a species similar to that in Hawaii that's just not being collected or In Australia, that's just not being collected because usually the Aussie ones are like really little. The Fiji ones tend to be really little, that sort of thing. Jeff's reef tank. Tidal Gardens, what is the result of the survey? Good question here. Let me hit the refresh on this. Most people, they're subscribed and received the notification, or subscribed, hit the bell, and got a notification. And only 14% said, I'm not subscribed, but I'm going to get on that real quick. So come on, hit the button, guys, hit the button. I was about to say, don't even worry about it, because like usually, you know, YouTube doesn't send out notifications anyway, so it's not like it's any big deal. But no, turns out that people did get the notifications this time around. Chris Temple, ever thought of having a Discord server? Not on the top of my mind just yet. I've never used Discord before. I probably should look into it more. Some people have asked me over the months, but no, I haven't messed with that yet. I probably should. Who knows? I might start a gaming channel. Show you my boomer APM. Let's see. Tattoo Dancer 91. It's bugging me, this hype of Indonesian corals. Indo did 70% of world export. Did we kill all the Indo corals and suddenly ran out when they got the ban? Tons should be in circulation. I don't think it was so much of just the damage to the reefs part of the argument. I think it was like massive corruption part of it too. Like, I think that they needed to do a top-down cleanup of their practices, because it was like really like the Wild West out there. And, you know, like people like forging documents and, you know, shipping something that was labeled as something else, that sort of thing. So I think that they were just cracking down on like basically a legal black market of sorts, from what I understand. Let's see. Dustin's asking, macroalgae in the sump or algae scrubber, what are the differences? So it's been a really long time since I've used an algae scrubber, but the idea from my old school knowledge of algae scrubbers is that you're trying to grow a very specific high productivity turf algae on the scrubber. Now, when I used an algae scrubber, I grew hair algae, and that's not super desirable. You're actually looking for some like really tough turf algae. They used to be called algal turf scrubbers. Macroalgae, on the other hand, I think is way easier to handle, because it turns out that chaeto, really fast growing, really clean, and is highly effective. And you know, there's plenty of people that have designed the flow in a little chaeto chamber to have this thing constantly tumble. They blast it with a ton of red light, and in some cases, I think that their systems are almost like too clean, if that makes sense. Like, it's just stripping out everything out of the water. So I would take a look at that. Okay, so going back a little bit, talking about the bacteria stuff for cycling. Yeah, there's a Dr. Tim presentation where he talks like in depth about all the different types of bacteria. So that's a good one to check out. I'm going to be doing a video, not anytime soon because I'm doing a ton of research for it, but it's all about, maybe I should segment it. Maybe I should do one video about the nitrogen cycle, one video about bacterial symbiosis in the coral, and then a separate one about bacteria as like a food source for corals. I think I might do like a 3-part series, because I'm finding all kinds of like really cool and interesting things about bacteria and its relationship to corals. And two, please, thank you so much for tossing out that Patreon stuff. Appreciate it. Karthik, do Euphyllia sting each other? Yes, they do. They're not necessarily so strong as to like kill one another. But the issue that you're going to run into is that it's kind of like this low chronic stress for the coral. And in tanks where they're just thriving and doing great, it's not a problem. But there's some pretty expensive, fragile things like high-end torches, for example. And that's not really something where you want to be providing low-key stress to them all the time. Because, I don't know, like how much, guys, is like a New York Knicks Indo torch going for these days? Like $500 or something like that. The last thing you want to do is just, oh, well, I can put it next to this hammer. They're probably not going to kill each other, but if I'm wrong about that, I might have just lost $500 on that torch. So I'm always about give them plenty of space. I wouldn't try to stuff them in together just for the sake of convenience. Okay, Robert Gilmore is asking, my tank has been cycled for 3 months now, got a Sunset Monty frag, it's been in there for 3 months. How much growth should I have seen by now? Any recommendations for a lepto? Well, looks like we're actually already in the lepto section. So if you see something that kind of like looks nice to you, because we have like, I think 6 different types of LEPTOSERIS. But back to your questions about growth rates. It's going to vary a lot on your tank, your lighting, and your chemistry. Because, for example, we have high phosphates in a lot of our systems in the greenhouse. We're trying to get that down, but it's coming from such a high place that it's kind of tough to do. But as it's on its way down, we're noticing that certain corals that were kind of inhibited by the phosphate level, most likely, are growing very quickly. Also, the kind of feeding that we do, like we are slamming these tanks now with amino acids, and on certain days, even turning the return pump all the way down to the point where it's basically not even feeding the tank with water, and just letting that churn in there for like a few minutes before kicking the return pumps back onto full and flushing it away. So there's so many variables. It's not just how old is your system. It could be like 50 different other factors going on. But once they do start taking off and they're happy with life, it's a very fast growing coral. Both your MONTIPORA and the LEPTOSERIS. My favorite LEPTOSERIS, of which is the 24K, which I have mentioned in the video, all about them if you wanted to learn more. So, JS got the notification, late as usual. Marcus Aurelius only got mine 20 minutes late today. Yeah, rough. The other thing that we could suggest as far as notifications go is subscribe to our newsletter, and we send out one right as the party is starting. I think it's set to do that anyway. Okay, so CL and a bunch of numbers. This is my first time watching the live sale. Can I save something in my cart until the end, or do I have to purchase it right away to guarantee my purchase? CL, you have to purchase it right away. Now, it kind of depends on the time of year. Sometimes you can get away with it on slower months, but if it's a busy month and particularly in-demand corals, you need to be checking out right away. Now, when you check out multiple times, just select as the shipping method, adding to an existing order, so you're not charged multiple instances of shipping. Okay, Tattooed Dancer. I mean, the hobbyists hype about Indonesian corals. People were acting like we didn't have Indo corals available when there should be a lot. Did we, the hobbyists, waste it all? Short answer, yes. So I hate to say it, but most of the corals in this hobby don't make it. Yeah, like I think we're kind of in a bubble where, especially with like my audience, because like my whole channel is kind of like based around educational content and very specific to coral husbandry, right? I mean, we talk about some other things, but it's a coral channel, let's be real. Now, the vast majority of the universe are not subscribers to Tidal Gardens. They're not subscribers to anybody. They're probably not even like reading books or anything. They saw something pretty and they're gonna now go kill it in their tank. So even the folks that are good at this hobby, and let's just say for the sake of argument that I am good at this hobby, okay? I can look back through my catalog of images of corals that we used to have. And there are literally hundreds of types of corals that I no longer have in my collection. Maybe we sold out, unlikely, but maybe we had like one or two that we were hoping to grow out, didn't make it. Shoot, like the OG bounce mushrooms. I've bought that from Nathan like 5 times now or something ridiculous like that. And I still don't have one. And I've never sold one. So all of those have died in my care. It happens. So there are Indonesian corals that I had way back in the day that I've literally never seen again in 15 years. So it is a lot of, I mean, even just having like that 2-year ban, however long that was, I mean, sure, that greatly depleted the inventory of existing Indo corals. But previous to that, like, there's not a lot of people that are keeping corals for 10 years, like a specific colony for 10 years. It's exceedingly uncommon. And sure, you can find examples of it. I mean, me, perfect example. I've done it before. But in that 10-year span, there's a lot of corals that didn't make the cut. And I would love to have some of them back, like some zoanthids, certain blastomussa. I mean, I had a fluorescent, like peach-colored blastomussa welsey. You think that might be something nice to have in your collection right about now? But exactly. Couldn't keep it alive. And I did keep it alive for about 5 years. But one day, it was gone. Bummer. Oh, let's see. JS, kind of digging the extra time right now. Clean the bottom of the sump and skimmer and all, and the return pump. That's today, yeah. Crank out that water change while you're at it too. Greg Reef Boy, hey Than. What size is your quarantine tank as in dimensions? Okay, real quick, it is 35 by 24 by 18. Angry Owl says hello, hello, and I'm way behind the chat. I'll just see how far I can catch up here. I saw gold torches for like $1,000 on the site the other day. So here's the thing: prices are nuts. Like Indo prices are nuts, totally nuts. There's some stuff that I saw wholesale that was 4 figures. Like wholesale, meaning it probably landed over $500 into the States. Because guys, the internet exists in Indonesia, believe that. So they see what stuff is selling for. They're like, wait. You know, back in the 80s, we would sell stuff for like 50 cents. But you're gonna sell stuff for $1,000? Yeah, price just went up. So yeah, like pricing for Indo stuff, pricing for all corals is very high right now. Like I don't think people have any idea how expensive some stuff is, especially some stuff that's just not like very run of the mill. If you find something really exotic, it is expensive at every level. There's no, like, guys, they're all on Instagram. It's they know fire when they see it. If you see some 8-colored rainbow acanthophilia, okay, guaranteed wholesale. You're not gonna like see that for less than 4 figures. That thing might retail for 5 figures. I'm telling you, it's like the pricing is insane, absolutely crazy. So aquaculture, guys, it's a thing. Support aquaculture because that will reduce prices for you. To please, $1.99. Thank you. You are up to $3.90. Smash them thumbs up, everyone. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, even if you have to dip out early, hit the thumbs up on your way out. Does it help? I don't know. It helps my ego. Let's see. Tattoo Dancer 91. Germans at white corals do that with amino acids. They give amino baths to stress coral. Glad you mentioned that. So we had a scolie, right? And it got a little bit of damage right on its mouth, right in the middle. And usually when that happens, an algae starts to grow in there. It's like, that thing, go ahead and take that off the site. It's probably not going to make it, right? But it happened to be in a tank that I was like pumping full of amino acids, not for that scolie. Like I had kind of like mentally written off that scolie, but I was doing it for some micromusa lords in a corner. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna like pound these guys with amino acids and see if that helps them. It did. But as a side benefit, like a couple of different scolies that were kind of wonky, both started to recover. And the one that I thought was definitely not going to recover is almost to the point that I would feel comfortable putting it back on the site for sale. And that is miraculous. So yeah, I am all about amino acids all day. And so it was kind of funny because like Ben, the manager over at the warehouse, he's like, if I keep dosing it at this much, we're going to run out. And I'm like, I don't care. We will get more amino acids. Like I don't want to have amino acids on hand. I want to turn those amino acids into coral. So use it all. Use it all, we'll get more. So yeah, I am a big proponent of amino acids right now. Holly is asking, hey Than, do you have any favorite books on coral? I think my favorite book on coral was Aquarium Corals by Eric Bornemann. That's a very old school book now, I guess. It's been so long, like a 20-year-old book or something like that, but I liked it a lot. Okay. David, I got a single head of Holy Grail and it's 4 heads now. I attribute it to this channel teaching me how to do things before I bought anything. Oh, thanks, Mom. The Tidal Mom brought me some food because I'm going to be starving later. Thanks.
Tidal Mom.
The Tidal Mom. So, okay. So, funny you mentioned the Holy Grail. What?
It's canned mangoes, not fresh.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks, though. Okay, the Holy Grail torch. We got one, it died. So it's funny that you're like, oh, I'm the one who helped you, I couldn't help myself. No, the one that we got was kind of on its way out. It was kind of bleached. So I can see where it went downhill. Brian, how's the building? It's doing pretty well. We are working on some non-aquarium-ish stuff right now, though. Like we're building up the kitchen, and that's always a fun and expensive process. So that's kind of been all things consuming. But we did bake our first batch of Tidal Gardens cookies on just yesterday, so it's all good. We also had to retune our RO system, and that was just done like yesterday and today because we were getting like a chlorine smell in our RO water, and that's like not good. So somehow chlorine was making it past a carbon filter and through the RO, which if you know anything about either of those two things, it's like very unlikely to have both of those things happen. But we had to calibrate some stuff, and now I think we're good. But that's always freaky. It's like, why does this whole place smell like chlorine? That's not good. Let's see. Okay, so Nicholas, as I started a new 300-gallon tank, is there any resources to help start a mixed reef leaning LPS SPS? Looking for placing strats for good next to each other or not, best overall lighting requirements. You know, when you're talking about like overall like requirements like that, you're just gonna have to get kind of close enough, right? Because you're not gonna be able to dial in perfectly what any specific one wants. And luckily, corals are highly adaptable, and if you just find this middle ground, it'll do like a lot of good for you. Gotta hit up the super chat. Send some corals to Angry Owl fan. Angry Owl. So oh, hold on, like going all the way back. Two, please says he's gonna buy me some. Okay, I'll have to follow up on that, because it's like I'm like going through this. I'm like I feel so out of the loop. Dan's last video got me doing a lot of research. Yeah, Marcus Aurelius. Yeah, the one about amino acids was like, that was a pretty deep dive. S2 Minute, thinking the Indo ban was just a big marketing scheme. No, it was definitely real. A whole bunch of people got laid off. Believe it. That was super for real. Marcus Aurelius says, I have a background in chemistry, so it got me wanting to make some. I still want to try myself. It's just been like kind of like a low priority for us. It's like, you know what, for now, I'm just going to pay the insanely high prices for it and see where we go. Harkin said, I found a purple with pink tip elegance, and it was over 1K wholesale. Yeah, there you go. Do aminos increase nitrates? I bet they can. The thing about aminos is that they're so like widely consumed by pretty much everything in the water, and then on top of that, your protein skimmer is uniquely designed to remove amino acids. So it's unlikely, but I guess you can overdo anything, right? You can overfeed anything in this hobby. So, you know, follow the directions on the bottle, because different amino acid supplements have different concentrations, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of them also have other things that you don't want to be overdosing on. Some of them have like carbohydrates, sugar, and then some of them have trace elements and stuff like that. So you don't want to like throw your trace elements all out of whack just because you're trying to feed aminos. So yeah, follow the directions on the bottle. Yeah, so Harkins is like, I hope you make your own aminos. Like, me too, because I would like to start saving money at some point here. And also just the amount of, like, especially once we get like the downstairs of this building, I'll kit it out with tanks and corals and everything like that. The amount that we're probably gonna be going through on a daily basis might be like a gallon a day. So a gallon a day retails like $100 or something like that. Obviously, I'd be paying wholesale, but that's still looking gross too. So if I can make my own, it'd be really cheap. And if it's actually good, maybe we can talk about offering it for sale. But that's like 10 steps ahead of where I'm currently at. So don't quote me on that. So I don't know why, but apparently 2 Please is buying coral for Angry Owl. I think. Yeah. Harkins Aquatic, chlorine in the tanks is not good. No, it's not. So what was crazy was I was asking the guy, we tested the chlorine, and it was like, this is, by the way, in our RO system, our RO tank, meaning that it's been sitting there for like 5 days, and it's still at this level. It was about let's say 3 parts per million. I'm like, okay, how much is like the city water tap, like the city water, like what are they cranking their chlorine up to for like regular tap water? And he's like, yeah, it's usually about like 1.5, and if they're hyper aggressive about an algae bloom, it can go up to 4 by law. And so like, oh, we are straight up chlorinating our water, and we've been using this water now for a little while. So yeah, so if we had any corals that were struggling, in addition to our nitrate being a little bit high, I think we have another culprit that could be, oh, we're chlorinating our water whenever we top off. Not great. That is a noob mistake. But hey, now we know, and we got it taken care of. Let's see. Tattoo Dancer. Some streams ago you recommended Vision of Escaflowne. Thanks for that. Great anime. That's off topic, but yes, Visions of Escaflowne is very good. Let's see. Greg Reefboy. Hey, Than, are you going to continue running T5 fixtures in the greenhouse? We are currently still doing that. And we will be doing it for quite some time, I believe. To be perfectly honest, switching from the T5s to LED didn't really save us a whole lot of money. Like Radeon Pros are 200 watts each, guys, right? And in some of our tanks, you know, there's like a bunch of those fixtures. So when you start adding up like the cost difference, it doesn't really pan out. But what I do like about LEDs is that they remain consistent for a longer period of time, whereas our T5 bulbs are probably like 2 years old. They're kind of getting dim looking. Some of them are burning out. Some of the fixtures are burning out and just like losing a couple banks of T5s here and there. So I like the consistency of the LEDs more. Having said that, I don't think that there's really any question that I like to photograph corals and video and shoot the video of corals under T5 more than LED. They've come a super long way. Like before, my LED footage was basically unusable, but now it's not that bad. So I'm wondering if like some combination of T5 and LED might be a pretty decent result, or decent output video-wise. Not sure. Let's see, what number are we on? 72. I think this still might be shot under LED. So you're gonna see like a lot of like color, like weirdness, because unfortunately we're going from kind of like different lighting settings and different lighting technologies in different tanks. So your mileage may vary. Angry Owl said he's buying me $500 worth. Hold him to it. All right. I hope so. I could use 500 bucks right about now. Harkins, even if you pump air through it, it'll be days to drop it off. Yeah, and I think a bigger problem that we were having was our container was sealed. I mean, there's a little bit of gas exchange, but the lid is on and was on tight. So now at least we're kind of like gassing it off a little bit. Eric Eddy, what do you recommend for temporary coral adhesive to rock? My rock structure is not flat, so I can't rest my frags on the rock. Don't want to glue till I know it likes it on that spot. Temporary coral adhesive. Ugh. Gosh, I really don't know. You know, probably your best bet is to use that epoxy putty, and then if it's not liking it there, you can just like kind of like peel and rip that stuff back off. So I would probably go with that. Maybe somebody else has some better ideas for you. I've never, ever done that. Mostly reefs. I'm about to start trading coral for TP. So, guys, there isn't a toilet paper shortage. Like, it's just that everybody is hoarding. Like, there's plenty. It's not like, oh, sorry, guys. I'm going to just start eating. This is terribly rude, but I'm hungry. It's not like there was just in fact, both food and toilet paper, it's like there's no supply shortage. Like there's no interruption in production. It's just, I think people kind of panicking about the wrong stuff. Like toilet paper, like insulin I can understand, but toilet paper, oh, by the way, speaking of toilet paper, for all those people out there that were laughing about like the bidet toilets at Tidal Gardens, who's big brain guy now, huh? Those Toto washlets are amazing. Lost in Sutherland, that's a nice watch, thank you. Seiko Sarb 033, if you guys know what that is. It's on an aftermarket Rolex President bracelet. There you go. 420 reefer. Fan, did you dump the chlorine water out or run it through some Pureit? No, we're basically just waiting for it to gas off. Like, dude, I'm telling you, we used that water for weeks. Lawson and says, and stop touching your face. I've washed my hands, no joke, like 5 times today. $1.99. Send this to K-Town Reefer. What is going on? 2, please. What the heck? The silent one. Have you ever ran T5 high outputs with LED? If so, how long do you run the T5s with the LEDs using the T5s or supplemental light? Good question, but I honestly don't know because our lighting cycle is about 8 hours. But so I'm going back and forth with like one of my guys, Luke. He's trying to to do different things based on other people's practices, and I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work out here or not. But you know what? But here's the thing, and good or bad, I will give my guys the benefit of the doubt. I will always try some of their suggestions. So we are trying different lighting schemes. So I can't give you a great answer about that right now, unfortunately. But I wouldn't rack your brain about it too much. Stay within normal bounds, 6 to 10 hours. Just be consistent. Bungo's Reef, don't forget chloramines as well. Although it's a weaker germicide than chlorine, it is more stable, which is why water systems are making more use of it. Get rid of all of this for great RO. So we are injecting chlorine on our own. We're not using city water. So we are collecting rainwater, and we have to treat it because the bacteria in there will mess with RO. So we are direct injecting exactly what we need, but I think it was just overtuned. It was just like we can cut that like by 1/3 probably, and it'll work out better. Let's see. Josh Ryan, for a nano 20-gallon tank with about 8 frags, how often would you recommend feeding the corals? Every day. So Xiao, oh, I'm sorry, my Chinese is terrible. Xiaohuan Zhang. When you dose amino, what do you dose in the time of day? So I like to do once in the morning and once basically when we're about to leave at about 4:30. Let's see. The silent one, Tyler Gardens, you should do more acro packs. Yes, we should. And you know what? So the intern and the other guys, they work out all the acro packs and stuff like that, and they're selling pretty well. And I got to tell you, we have got some absolute fire cooking up acro wise, like really nice stuff. So we got lucky with some of our later acquisitions, and also we kind of hit up Nathan and bought his like his home wrecker and his Walt Disney and stuff like that. Cool stuff. It's just a matter of time. Okay. Let's see. You can use vitamin C to dechlorinate. Yeah, I'm not gonna. Well, here's the other thing. It's in a 1,000-gallon container, so I don't want to mess with too much. Give it some water flow and some air time, and it'll all go away. Let's see. So David Yu. So I've dipped all my corals, but just found a pineapple sponge attached to the bottom of my Hellfire torch that wasn't there when I bought it. Should I leave it in the dip for more than 10 minutes? Not really sure. Like most sponges, the ugly sponges are going to survive anything. The really pretty sponges tend to not survive anything. So kind of up in the air. It might survive, no problem. Like I've run sponges under fresh water, like certain ones, they don't care. Like I was trying to kill it, didn't kill it. And apparently it might have been chlorinated fresh water, didn't kill it. Let's see. Mostly reefs. Love the booty washing machines. They're nice. They are very nice. Are the mind-blowing PALYTHOAs smaller than the royal purple pallies? Actually, they're about the same size, I would say. Let's see. So Marcus Aurelius says seawater is like 19,000 parts per million chlorine, so a little won't hurt. Different stuff. So if you take a chlorine test kit, because we just did this, it turns out, you can test your water for chlorine, but it's testing for Cl2 basically. And it's not, so the stuff that's in salt water is just like ionic chloride ion, Cl negatively charged. And so it won't even show up on a test kit. But the stuff that's disinfecting will absolutely smash stuff is the bleach. And you definitely don't want to do that. Calvin Hall, my torch has lost some flesh. Any advice? Ooh, Calvin. So, what I would do is, couple things. First of all, I would make sure that there's nothing actually eating it. So look out for pests, look out for, I don't know, crabs or fish or anything that might be doing that. Second thing is, you know, this is like literally a week ago revelation, but it's like, you know, have you ever heard that phrase how like honey is basically like liquid flesh? They can use it in surgery and stuff like that to like patch wounds, and like your body incorporates the honey and just grows new meat. It's amazing. Amino acids are like the honey for corals. Like I like the sort of like regenerative stuff I'm seeing with amino acids. I'm like, I'm gonna be dosing this stuff all over any corals that are struggling. So maybe you want to give that a try. It's, you know, you think that like that I work for like the amino acid cartel or something based on this live stream. I really don't. I am not sponsored by anybody's thing, and I don't have a secret product coming out, and I'm just like, you know, loading up the marketing towards it. Just trust me. Amino acids are the real deal. Let's see. Richard, Craig's Reef has to go. Thanks for stopping in, Craig. Nice to have you. Richard Tar, I just received a beautiful 24K lepto from you, and would love to build a little lepto island with different types. Good or bad idea? It's fine. You don't necessarily want them to be all like touching each other because they are going to fight one another a little bit. But no, I think it would look very cool. You can get a lot of different types of colors going on. The silent one, don't sponges die exposed to the air? So I've heard that before. In my experience, that hasn't been the case. Okay. Just another nano tank. Than, you're looking good. Appreciate it. Hope you and yours are doing well in these difficult times. So far, so good. I can't complain. By the way, I have gray hair, right? But I have a hair light pointing down at me. So my hair is actually quite a lot darker in real life. So it's like if everybody thinks that, you know, I'm looking like, who's that dude on CNN with like the all white hair? It's not that bad yet. Yes, honey used for granulating wound beds. It's also antimicrobial. Yeah, honey is some amazing stuff. Like I would love to have like bee colonies in my backyard, and I don't even know if I would harvest very much honey from them, but I don't know. The honey that I have seen from like local sources, it's so good. Okay, so Eric Eddy is asking, what is the typical time between ugly brown phase until I get coralline growth? Tank's about 10 months old and barely any coralline. So, I'm not sure exactly why you specifically are not seeing coralline growth, but one tip that I can give you about coralline is that it does not like light. So if you are having like a very bright SPS tank or something like that, there's a very good chance that your lighting intensity alone could be killing all your coralline. So that's something that I would pay attention to. Like coralline, especially like the purples and pinks that people really, really like, that is a low light algae. Like a few hours of highlight will kill it all. Prince Kihi, top 3 LPS for a beginner. So you should definitely check out my my beginner LPS suggestions video. I've got a 2-gallon Pico. That makes it harder. 2 gallons. What should we do in a 2-gallon Pico? I kind of like not Acanthastrum, Micromusa Lords. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, something like that. Nothing too crazy big, like no Euphilia. Probably no giant meat corals or anything like that. Nothing too fast growing. Favia might be a choice. Maybe Favites more than Favia. Favia might be a little bit too aggressive, but like Favites, the smaller polyp guys might be good. Reef therapy, the corals are looking great. The video quality is amazing. Thank you. Yeah, it's yeah, the colors have bounced back. By the way, this is another thing that we played with and then we stopped doing. We messed with Vibrant, and I loved how Vibrant controlled the heck out of algae. Like our tanks were looking real clean, like super crazy clean. But the problem that we had was that certain corals didn't like it. And it's not like a lot of corals. It was just a few corals didn't like it. So for example, like Favia, for example, they just like lost all their color and then started to recede and stuff like that. And we just noticed like some corals kind of got a little bit more dull in color. And this is, I mean, whenever you're dealing with any kind of like bacterial solution for anything, you know, bacteria grows at bacterial rates. Things can happen, like stuff happens very fast. So that's why we don't necessarily like carbon dosing, things of that sort. So yeah, when it came to Vibrant, I think what we're going to be doing in the future is certain coral tanks where we're perfectly okay with, you know, those corals being in Vibrant. For example, Zoas, excuse me, Zoas loved it. Like all those little films and film algae and like little weirdness that, and the detritus that likes to build around zoanthid colonies, all of that stuff being eliminated, our Zoas never looked better. So perhaps if we ever had like a Zoa only system, we would be pumping that thing with like Vibrant constantly. But we couldn't just wholesale broadcast it into every system because, yeah, certain corals didn't like it. Unfiltered reefer, I may have missed it, but what brand of amino acid have you been using? We've used a few different types. We've used AcroPower, we've used Aquavitra Fuel, we've used Brightwell's Coral Amino. Right now, currently, we're using Aquavitra Fuel, but it's all pretty good stuff, I would say. Some dude, Than's smooth, velvety voice, which I'm starting to lose, and HD coral porn is all I need to stock up on during this pandemic. Hopefully that's all we need, right? Hopefully. Just other nanotank. No, your videos you publish of the building updates show you much better. It's just the way of the stream. Missed the first part of the context of that, but I'm going to call that a compliment. It works better that way. Let's see. So Martinez, what kills sponges? Good question. Like I said, the ugly ones are hard to kill. And even when I like scrubbed it with a brush, they came back. But like the really pretty, beautiful oranges and the bright yellows and stuff like that, they die if you look at them wrong. it's like you when I find like a beautiful yellow one underneath a rock, and then I expose it to like the light, it just instantly goes away. Let's see. Tattoo Dancer, have you considered selling rocks covered in corals? What corals does it? They're super popular. Occasionally we have like a nonsense looking rock that's like has certain polyps and things like that. Occasionally we have that. In fact, there might even be like one of those on this live show. Let's see. Just trying to get caught up on questions and stuff. PAR is around 100 to 170 throughout the tank. Going back to the Coraline and lighting question there. Harkins, let me know if you want to really do bees. I can help you build that out. That'll be cool. Yeah, I think that, you know, we just have so many projects, you know. But yeah, I think I would like to keep bees. I like bees. I heard of like about certain plants that bees pollinate and make honey out of that can be psychotropic. Like chrysanthemums or something like that. I forget. I saw a documentary once. Let's see. What is the first thing you notice if your SPS corals start bleaching? Parameter, nutrition or pests or something else? Okay. Usually, when it comes to bleaching, it is most likely too much light. Past that, I would be really concerned if it turns like ugly brown. Ugly brown usually means like a flatworm or something like that that's gobbling them up. Gas pipe one, would you consider quarantine service for orders for an extra fee? We wouldn't have the facilities to do that, unfortunately. And like quarantine has been like an enlightening experience because we have been quarantining for like 70 something days. And like you probably saw in my last video, I did talk about this in that video, but it's like we've dipped in Bayer at least 3-4 times. We're dipping in flatworm exit. We're dipping in levamisole, like harsh. Like levamisole is crazy harsh, and we've had stuff survive levamisole. And I'm just thinking, you know, like how on earth is anything surviving this stuff? And yeah, like yeah, we wouldn't. I don't know if it's like a huge value add for us to do it. Like I think that it's really the best money that you could spend is to have like a small quarantine setup of your own, because you can bring in fish that way. You can do all kinds of stuff. It's very flexible. And if you wanted to like take a whole bunch of stuff out and wholesale treat just that tank, you could do it. But yeah, very, very tough. Very tough to truly eliminate problematic stuff. Is, I mean, like every single time we bring something in, we dip it, and you know, and we dip stuff regularly. But to try to like get a system that has nothing going in there is like so difficult. Like some of the stuff is just, well, it doesn't really want to die. Let's just say. John Walters, new to the live stream. Welcome. Love your videos and your farm. Learned so much from you. Thank you. You're welcome. Glad you like it. Just another nanotank. He's thinking acro power and refroids. That combo works fine. I've got nothing against A plus B. Heard good stuff about that. I've never used the Red Sea stuff, but there's also like an AB plus that they're making, which is kind of interesting because I guess it can be kept at like room temperature and then dosed, which I think is kind of cool. Sorry, I'm like reading chat, so I apologize for like not doing any talking. Oh, meant for your hair. It's much darker in your filmed videos. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. All my sponges hate light. Yeah, it's pretty much the norm for sponges. Let's see. Cullen Gambetta. Any tips for keeping Seriatopora alive down at the base? That's an interesting question because a lot of times like these colonies, they grow to a certain size, and really it's only that fringe layer at the top that survives, and like the skeleton down below all dies. So a couple of things that you can work on there. Flow through the colony really helps. Feeding in that flow helps, and also having a very diffuse, almost like an omnipresent light also helps, because like in the tanks where we just have like alive on top, dead down below, the light is kind of more unidirectional. So I guess the more basically how much light can you get down towards the bottom of that coral? So it's kind of tough. But if you can't manage the lighting thing, I bet you could get away with it with the food thing, because those polyps are still eating. Keelan is asking, can you discuss how you started selling corals, where you found your first few new customers, and any tips and ideas for brand new hobbyist sellers? So Keelan, selling is the whole industry. Like, it's not about how well you can set up tanks. It's not how pretty your tanks look. It's not about getting the best corals to propagate. It's not like all the stuff that is interesting about the hobby aspect of it really is the hobby. So in that sense, I haven't been like a good hobbyist in a really long time, because all the hobby related stuff is done by my staff. Now, like I said, it is all selling. That is the industry in a nutshell. Like, people, you might be able, okay, so we're looking at like a blood orange Leptoseris. You might be able to find a Leptoseris out there that's less expensive, but it'll almost be hard to find it just because of like the market saturation, how saturated internet search is. It's actually difficult. So there might even be like a store just down the street from me, and he's probably like pulling his hair out, because it's like, I see the live shows, I see what he's charging for like an Ultra Leptoseris here, and that coral is in my tank for less. Why is he able to sell this Ultra Lepto but I'm not? It's like, because that's how sales works. You know, there are plenty of places that charge more than me, and I'm, you know, to some degree thinking, I wish I could sell it for double. But it's the whole game is the marketing and sales aspect. So unfortunately, you're not going to like my answer. The best thing that I ever did was to go hard on the content that people really like to consume, and over time build up the search engine credibility to show up very high in many searches. I can hear you chewing. Nice ASMR. Thank you. Thank you too, please. Greg Reefway, Than, have you heard anything more on the Indo coming back into play? Well, so Indo has been around for like a little while, for like the past few months, and we've gotten some stuff from Indo. Indo is a lot more expensive than it used to be, like a lot more. But the problem that's happening now is that there's a lot of restrictions on international flights. So there are fewer flights to get coral shipments on. So there's so it's not like a regulatory pressure in the sense of people preventing coral specifically. There's just a bottleneck with the number of available flights. So a lot of wholesalers are like, hey, get it now because we can't guarantee that we can get more corals. There's no planes, that sort of thing. Having said that, a few wholesalers I'm aware of are also just thinking about like shutting it down for a little while, chilling out, world events and all. So it'll be interesting. I think that growing and farming is going to be a thing for the next year. It's going to be high on a lot of people's lists because import is a little bit sketchy right now. Yeah, Harkin says levamisole is brutal on most all things. Yes, and we've had stuff survive, which is insane. Luke Doolittle. Fan, what acros and montes would you recommend for a beginner with a mixed reef? Acros, I don't know if I would recommend necessarily. If you wanted to experiment with that, get the cheapest one you can and just see how well you do with it, because acros can be very temperamental. As far as montes go, you have a lot of room to play. So when you're talking about montes, my favorite are like the encrusting ones. They tend to have like the best color, and they're not redonkulous fast growers. If you want the easiest ones, it is going to be one of the fast growing plating guys, like the purple plating, orange plating. There's some hybrid plating ones that are cool, but they're fast growing. I would stick to something like a rainbow encrusting monte. Those are very cool. David, what do you feed your chalice corals? I got the Bolivian chalice from you last show, and it's doing well, but it doesn't seem to open up for any food that I've tried. Sometimes it's a training thing, and going back to the whole amino acid thing, give it amino acids. Like, again, such good luck with amino acids. Just go with that. Marcus Aurelius, critters get a resistance to dips. Some, yeah, I would agree with that. However, levamisole is next level. I mean, it is like, so this is kind of what's funny, all right? So levamisole is like quasi-legal. I think it's legal, but it's kind of like frowned upon because it's used in the drug, like the illegal drug market, to cut cocaine, okay? So, funny story. I'm trying to order levamisole, and I just come across a link. It's an eBay auction. This guy selling levamisole. I'm like, all right. And in the description, it says that it's uncut. What would you be cutting levamisole with? So now I'm wondering, it's like, did I just order cocaine on eBay? So we'll see. We'll see. And I'll be sorely disappointed if we're trying to do our dipping, and in fact, we're just doing what I think our levamisole treatments are actually just cocaine. I'd be like, guys, I really just wanted levamisole. Anyway. John Walters, if corals are losing color but the polyps are still out, could it be zero nitrates and phosphate? Losing color, polyps out. Not sure if it would be a nitrate or phosphate issue. I would be looking at lighting issue, pest issues. Yeah, that's where my head goes. Let's see. Jessica J. Okay, nope. Asking somebody else. It's all cool. Like like half the conversations are about or between each other, which is cool. Which is cool. I just need to like make sure I don't miss something that's actually for me. By the way, you can do like, I think, what is the thing, like at Tidal Gardens or something like that, and then it'll show up in orange, and that helps me see it better. Let's see. Already have a not so rainbow Monty. Otherwise, that would be nice. Just no room for it at the moment. Yeah. Couple directions you can still go. Like I like sunset Montes a lot. And if you wanted to get like into the expensive stuff, there's like the really like slow growing guys like the Kung Pao and all that stuff. Cullen Gambetta, why is Euphilia so expensive? It's expensive because all through the chain of custody, it's expensive. So if you see like some really amazing, well, they're not even that amazing, to be perfectly honest. Like okay, so I think like the Holy Grail, New York Nick, all those like expensive guys, I think they're cool, all right? But they're not like, so the pictures that you see online, I guarantee are under the most redonkulous actinic, okay? Under daylight, they look nothing like that. Not that they look bad, they just don't look like ridiculous actinic with a filter, okay? So I think it's just the demand for it has gotten hot, and so that works its way up the chain. So, for example, I saw a New York Nick torch at a wholesaler, and I'm like, okay, how much is that? Guess what the price was? Not for sale. So you couldn't even buy the damn thing. So when you have a situation like that, pretty much people can ask whatever price they want. Okay, it's time for some more rice and mango ASMR. Reef therapy. I've got a jug of Acropar from 2 years ago. It was open. Do you think I can still use it? I wouldn't. Give it a smell. It shouldn't smell bad. But, dude, I wouldn't risk it. Scotty D. Hey, Than. Hope all is well. Hanging in there. Hanging in there. Hopefully everybody out there is doing well. Because these are some messed up times. Like and again, I really don't want to talk about, you know, all the, you know, world event stuff, but like things change on a daily basis. So it's like, best thing I can do is I'll roll with it and see where we are. Because it's like we didn't have an election here in Ohio, you guys, and that decision was made at 10:30 p.m. the night before. Everything can change like that. So hanging in there, right? Hanging in there. Hard to plan for stuff. But I have to, I still say that, you know, this toilet paper crisis, it's not my problem, because I got bidets. Bidets for days. Josh Van Meer, any chance we'll be getting firework cloves soon? I love the looks of those. They're really cool. No, we that's not on my list of gotta gets, but they're surprisingly slower growing than I remember. And by the way, I just saw the last coral. I apologize. That's a little oversaturated towards the end there, because I think it's the lighting, like I said, on these tanks are different tank to tank, and so what color settings work for one tank might make the corals in the next tank look a little intense. So keep an eye out for that. Marcus is saying it's banned in California. Is it levamisol that you're talking about? It is banned in California. Yeah, I know it's banned in certain places. Like, because I know it's like it's a drug thing. Let's see. Andrea Lameda, can you say something about Phosphate RX or similar? Okay, so I've never used that product before. I can tell you that anything like a phosphate reducer, there's a couple of different ways to reduce phosphates, and I think both of them have to be handled with care. The first one is GFO, which is granular ferric oxide, and that's like a filtration media. That can drastically reduce your phosphate very quickly, and I don't like to chemically change anything very quickly, so be careful of that. You can overdo it, and overdoing that will result in your corals getting jacked up, so don't do that. The other thing is a bacterial supplement that would almost like a carbon dosing type sort of situation where the bacteria directly reduces phosphates and nitrates. Also hyper aggressive. Also, you have to like handle that very carefully. Go like real slow because that can go sideways really fast. So there's two, I guess, not really great methods to do that. I guess a third method would be to try to grow a lot of chaeto and harvest it, and that will bind up phosphate. So I guess that would be the most gentle, and that's probably the one that I would go with, if anyone's asking. "40B Nasty, you've got an Aussie Gold Torch, grew one other head about 2 years ago. Both heads are the size of a closed fist. Do they grow more than 2 heads ever?" They do. So one, that's so dumb. I was so dumb. There's this guy that bought a gold torch from me. This is years ago. Bought a gold torch from me. And he was getting out of the hobby, and he was on like on one of these message boards trying to sell his torch. And it had like 9 heads. And he wanted like $100 for the whole thing. I think I charged him like, back then, a gold torch was like $100. Retail was $100. Now it's like, God knows how much. So he had bought it from me for $100. He's trying to sell it for $100. It has 9 heads. And he had trouble selling it. Like, ugh. That was an expensive mistake. I should have bought that back. But yes, they do eventually grow more heads. It's a slow growing coral. So Diacanthus, I don't know why you're no longer a moderator, unless you're a different Diacanthus. I'm going to remake you a moderator. Yeah, I don't know why. Let's see. William is asking, set up a 40-gallon breeder. Looking for stocking ideas. Currently have 1 domino damsel and 1 maroon. Oh my gosh, he picked like the 2 meanest fish on earth. Looking for more fish and want to try corals too. Okay, the corals are probably going to be fine. Those 2 fish are killers. Killers. And a 40-gallon breeder, I think you might be done with fish. Just got to throw that out there. You might be done with fish. Oh, Tattoo Dancer. Do you have those moments where you immediately regret a decision as you're doing it? I did that with Aquametic Anti-Red. Turns out that its main component is silver equals brown acros. Yikes. Not as I was doing it, but I've tried some ultra low nutrient methods. And after a week, I'm like, oh, yeah, that killed all my stuff. I shouldn't have done that. So that's why I say, like, going back to the whole phosphate thing, if you're going to mess with biopellets, if you're going to mess with any of that probiotic stuff, be real careful with that. Like anything bacterial could go nutty. Ooh, Too Pleased is asking, what would you use to drill a round acrylic aquarium? Regular hole saw, run in reverse, or a diamond bit? This would be a 4-inch hole through acrylic. Actually, not that you say acrylic. I think you can just use like a plastic saw, right? Like a hole saw with like, you know, very very fine fine teeth. I think that should do it. Like acrylic is nice and soft. I thought you were like trying to drill like a glass bowl or something. How often does everyone pull a bunch of chaeto out of their fuge? I'm going to let somebody else answer that because I don't have that system really up and running. Our problem is we grow it in baskets, and like just like that fish that you saw just like pass in the background, like those fox faces and stuff like to eat the algae through the holes. So I don't really know how fast I'm growing algae or if it's growing at all. Jordan 401 JRDN. Can you recommend a T5 for a 40 breeder mixed reef and how many bulbs? 40 breeder is what, a 36-inch tank? I would try to get something with at least 4 bulbs. 4 bulbs. Not sure, like, so you can go super high end with it, like an ATI. Or you could do like a Coral Life fixture, lower end, but much cheaper. Is the ATI that much better? Maybe, maybe not. It'll look nicer, like the fixture itself, certainly. Some dude, how do walking dendros reproduce? I'm thinking sexually. Will it ever split? I don't think so. Looks like mine is in the process. Can't really tell. I think they always kind of have that figure 8 peanut shape. Or at least that's all the ones I've ever seen. Gotcha. All right. Thanks, Diacanthus Reef. Yeah, for clearing that up. I was like, I don't think I removed that wrench. Reef therapy. Sorry for the duplicate question. Was that the coral? Was coral number 142? Is it really that blue? Not sure. But if you're on the website, I actually had intern Becca shoot every single coral rather than me taking screen grabs. I realized that, like, I mean, again, this is better than what it was, but the screen grabs that I was like just cropping out of the video look like garbage. So I just said, Becca, go through, shoot every single coral. And so go by that picture. That, I think that will be a better representation than what you're seeing even on video here, because we are applying a special effect to try to change color temperature. So it could be a little heavy-handed at times depending on which coral, because I'm literally copying and pasting it across the entire show. So it works better on some corals than others. Yeah. So I don't really even remember what coral 142 was, but I would use the website's photo as a better reference. Acrylic is cut with the same tools as carpentry? Okay. Did not know. It's been a long time since I've drilled a hole into acrylic. Reef therapy. Do you still have that amazing white bounce? I do. I do. It's expansive. I think the last one we sold was like 1,000. Yikes. But yeah, we're in the process of trying to get those to grow out and propagate them. Oh, Tom Gionet, subscribed, bell on, no notification. So one last thing to check, Tom, is if the notification setting on the bell is set to get all or not. Now, it could still be YouTube, because like one of like my friend Tech Your Talk, I am subscribed, bell set to all. Didn't get a notification for his last video. So Harkins, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because like for the longest time it's like I've just been calling her the intern, but it's intern Becca now. She has a name in Project Mayhem. Let's see. Yeah, you can hit the Chaeto hard using stuff like that. Oh, yeah. So like speaking of Chaeto and messing it up, Vibrant will mess up Chaeto bad. Yeah, so don't do that. So did a decent water change, blah, blah. Okay. I wanted to... Harkins, I wanted that white bounce and his mom wouldn't let me buy it. Yeah, there you go, right? Was not available. Luckily, we still have it. Like that's not one of the corals that's like, I remember once we had this bounce mushroom. No, we still have it, thank goodness. I couldn't convince Gis to, that's Nathan, to go halves on the one white bounce at the last cookout. Still regret it. VA4444. You are awesome, Than. I don't care what the others say. Who's talking? Who are these other people? No, I'm kidding. I know I got haters. Okay, Keelan, do you have a method for marking frag plugs? No. My first thought was a Sharpie, but I don't want to any leachate. Okay. Do you have any suggestion for identifying plugs in the frag tank? So what we do, excuse me, we cut little rings of PVC, like I think it's like a half-inch, maybe half-inch PVC, and sometimes when we have like certain things, like as a part of a pack, or it's like what you see is what you get, we'll set it on the ring and stick it, the plug down into the ring, just to like differentiate it from everything else around it. Does the system work? Sometimes, not always. Tattoo Dancer. Since Pulsing Xenia is your favorite, is it my favorite? Or are you gonna have it in your new display tanks? Or are you gonna do the Instagram colorful route? Okay, so for the tanks downstairs here, I'm pretty much going to do corals that are more high-end, just because of like obviously the expense of the square footage of this place. I kind of can't be growing like super budget corals. And here's the thing, I don't have to do the super budget corals here because I already am growing them quite successfully next door. So a lot of the benefits of this place really wouldn't apply to something like Xenia. It'll grow just fine in the greenhouse. Let's see. Jared, is there a way to make a refugium for a 15-gallon all-in-one tank? Well, the all-in-one-ness of it, that's like really small, and I don't know if you're gonna get a ton of benefit from it. You would basically be looking to somehow retrofit another aquarium to that somehow. So, like you'd have to get kind of crafty, and it'd be a little custom project. Basically making like your overflow section an overflow box that drain down into a sump, and you can get more flexibility that way. But within a 15-gallon all-in-one, it'll be kind of tough, and I don't know if it'd be terribly productive. Okay, so Damien Toby, didn't realize free shipping was at $250 and I checked out. No problem. Could I get a couple more corals in my order and be refunded the shipping cost? Yes. So when you place an order for additional corals, go ahead and select adding to an existing order, and that way you won't be charged shipping for those corals. And afterwards, once we're starting to do like our packing slips and stuff like that, probably Monday, we will refund you the shipping that you paid. It happens all the time. Sometimes people pay like 4 times for shipping during the course of a live show, and here I have to like refund like $150. And I'm like, did you not notice that you were charged like a lot of money for shipping? But it happens. It just happens. Like the internet, sometimes it confuses people. But no, that's no problem at all. We'll get that refund to you. Joseph Puzo, Than, do you ever get corals that you've never seen before? So rarely. Oftentimes the corals that you never see before, so usually there's color morphs of corals that I'm aware of. But if it's a coral that I've never seen before, that is begging for a bad experience. There's oftentimes reasons why you don't see corals of a certain kind, and it's because they die a lot. They die a lot. So If I see something completely alien, I am less likely to be like all over it. Because first of all, it's going to be expensive, and second of all, there's a lot of corals that simply just can't be kept in captivity. So there's that. Like stuff like Dendronephthia and stuff, best advice is to stay away from that type of thing. Tattoo dancer. So asking about do I have a new favorite coral? Actually, I don't even think I have a favorite coral. I said it used to be Xenia. I asked you before. So I think what I might have said is that Xenia is by far like our best selling coral of all time, or something like that. And I'm one of those people that actually does like Xenia. Some people consider it a pest, blah blah blah, but there's no question that the appetite for the market for Xenia, it's surpassed everything else, like more than bounce mushrooms, more than anything else. Diacanthus is talking to two, please. Okay. JS, can I have a nice saltwater planted tank? Interesting question. And I think it is possible, but so there's a lot of really cool decorative algae out there, like like the flame breath and stuff, like the dragon's breath, like the reds, and there's like a red grape that I thought was like really cool. A lot of different cool saltwater algae and stuff, macroalgae. The problem is when you start to get algae that is like a nuisance algae, like a hair algae or something like that, or some kind of algae that like grows on your decorative algae. Like, how do you get rid of that? You can't put a tang in there or a fox face, because the fox face is going to eat the decorative stuff as much as it's going to eat the problematic stuff. So you almost have to like find a collection of snails and other herbivores that will manage the nuisance stuff but not eat the decorative stuff. And that can be a challenge. It'd be a cool thing though. And I think like down the road, I would still like to try to do some kind of a decorative macroalgae that we just grow and offer for sale, because a lot of people do like that stuff. JRDN 401. What's your opinion on bare bottom? I hate sand, but I do definitely need marine pure in the sump for extra bio. But do I need marine pure in the sump? Okay, so you're going to hear a lot of different opinions about sand. I love the way that it looks, but at the same time, it is messy, and I think that over time it acts as a nutrient trap. So if you're able to like siphon it frequently, I don't think it's that bad. If you have a super high flow tank, it might not be the best thing in the world either for that. But we're planning on having all bare bottom stuff here in our new tanks, and it's purely for maintenance purposes, not for appearance. Now, one little thing that I did discover is our show tanks downstairs have black ABS bottoms. Okay, black ABS. It's fine. It's cool. We purposely had our sump and our quarantine tanks made with white ABS bottoms. Okay, and specifically for the sump and for the quarantine, I want to see everything. I want to, if something happens to jump off this coral and then it's on the white surface, I can see it. If a fish or something makes it down the overflow into the sump, I want to be able to see the dark blue fish. And against a black background, not so easy, right? White, I want to be able to see. It turns out that white ABS stays kind of clean for whatever reason. So we can kind of just like get in there and just give it a little light scrubbing, and it looks really clean. And now I'm thinking like this could have been like a sand substitute if you think about it, because it's kind of like yeah, it's like this white bottom. It looks, I mean, it doesn't look natural like sand, but it gives you that light effect. Whereas I think that bare bottom tanks seem to be very dark towards the bottom. Just a thought. Just a thought. Who knows? It might just be early days, and it might just be like, oh, bam, dirty. But so far, it's looking kind of good. All right. Okay. I gotta call a timeout for myself. I need to use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Give me a sec. And I'm back. Okay, what number are we on? 175. Okay, I think we're going to be going for another 20 minutes or so, looks like. Yeah, so yeah, Harkins, white ABS is magic. Now I'm like wondering, should I do one of my tanks, like the big show tank, like the 10-footer, in white ABS bottom? I'm actually thinking that, like, that's going to cost me so much money, which I don't have. But I think it might be really cool, because so far, just my experience with the sumps and with the quarantine, it's pretty good. Greg Reefboy is asking, when testing water parameters, do you use the HANA checkers or just the basic color-coded test kits? We use a combination of all of it, really. Depends on which test at which time. We've used HANA checkers before, like the phosphate eggs. When we use like Red Sea test kits, we use Sailor for test kits. You know, we've done one Triton test, but we did our makeup water, our saltwater container. Mauricio? Yeah, Mauricio. Do you have to deal with bubbles on acroporas? I'm assuming like bubble algae, like Valonia. Not so much. What seems to solve the problem for us there is fox faces. Just another nanotank. Regretfully gotta go. Very tired with how busy work has been. All right, dude. Have a good one. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Thanks to everybody for coming and hanging out, really. Keelan, will PALYTHOAs graft at the base with other pallies? Is there any way to graft the polyp? So the ones I'm aware of, there's like these two different colors. One is a purple one called a purple death, and there's like this yellowish green one called a nuclear green. And we've actually done this before here. It's where you just start taking them and kind of like gluing them all to one another, basically. And sure enough, after a while, you do get these half and half guys. So it is possible. We've done it. Some dude is asking, any thoughts on mantis shrimp? I had one years ago and I missed it. Extremely curious and pretty creature. Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I've never had like one of the big ones. I just had the little hitchhikers and stuff like that. But no, they're pretty cool. Let's see, Just Moses. Are we still having shortages on torches? Seem to have issue finding them, and when I do, they're way overpriced. They're expensive. I don't know if they're necessarily overpriced, because that's just kind of their going rate. Like, I mean, somebody's more than welcome to sell a high-end torch for less. But they're going to be, it's like as soon as that one's bought, it's going to be right back up. So, yeah, like torches these days, by the way, for those of you that are kind of like new to this hobby, the hot coral at any given time, it just changes, okay? Like there's some acros that are coming in that are extremely colorful, extremely high demand, and don't be surprised if you start seeing some like $500 to $1,000 per inch acros. But 10 years ago, acros were down and zoanthids were high. And then mushrooms lately have been high. They might be coming down. Chalices had their day. It's very cyclical, okay? So right now in the cycle, Euphyllia, especially, and specifically torches, less so hammers, less so frog spawn, but torches are the hot commodity. It's weird that way sometimes. So I would say that, you know, if you want to avoid like the hype and the trends and stuff like that, you totally can. And one day the price of those things tends to go down and you can pick it up there if you really liked it. But yeah, I wouldn't panic buy anything. So yeah, it's just the way of the hobby. Everything goes in cycles. And like I said, it seems like super insane acros are the thing right now, like $500 to $1,000. Calvin Hall, Tidal Gardens, do you sell amino acids? No, I don't. You would think I do, or I get some kind of kickback, but I don't. I just love the amino acids that we're using. I wish I could make my own, and then hell yeah, I'd bottle it up and sell it. But no, we don't currently. Cullen Gambetta, thoughts on clams in a reef? I think they're awesome. I think clams hate my reef in particular, but no, when I see them in other people's tanks, they're amazing. I love them. Seth Edwards, love all the work with the informational videos, much appreciated. Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. Appreciate you watching it. Tell your friends. You know, here's the other thing, guys. I want to see if I can get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you're not subscribed, you'd be just doing me like a real solid just by helping me get to that level. Because I think at that level you get like a little $10 plaque from YouTube, and I want that stupid plaque. Dead serious, I want that plaque. So help a brother out. Keelan, do you have any pictures of the grafted pallies? Probably. I don't know if you can do a quick search. I mean, you like to do a search for like nuclear green / purple death pally, and you might see like a half and half. Sometimes they call it maybe they're called like a two-phase pally. I've heard them called like a purple, like a. It's like I've heard them called like a nuclear death because it's like nuclear green and purple death. So yeah, just do a quick image search for that. Daniel Valderrama, hey Than, always great to see your live show. Question, do you plan to have more types of anemones? Yes, our biggest problem with anemones is housing them appropriately. And because of that, we are not organized very well. So there's that. Also, we have this really awesome Colorado sunburst anemone, and I think that one of the treatments that we did, maybe it was Vibrant, because a whole bunch of stuff down colored in that tank, and that was unfortunately one of the things that down colored, but it like lost a lot of color, and hopefully we can spruce it back up. But yeah, we just have this Colorado, this very drab looking Colorado sunburst anemone sitting in a basket. Let's see, Bluntrix. My torch is splitting now. I need that Dragon Soul money. Yeah, there you go. Nice. Yeah, mostly reefs. 15 years ago, you could get an Indo acro colony for under 100. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yep, I want that silver play button. It's like, it's so dumb. It's like, I want this stupid gray check mark, and I want the stupid silver play plaque. Bluntrix, they all lose color. I live in Denver. I get them all the time. Can't keep that pizzazz. That's interesting. Like, why do you think that is? Because the ones where, so the place that I got it, their stuff still looks fine. It's just mine that lost the color. So I don't know. And so they, like well, in fairness, we have high nitrate, high phosphate. So that alone could cause it. Then we did vibrant, that could have caused it. And we've been topping off with chlorinated fresh water. So that could have done it. So there's any number of things that could be the culprit as to why a coral or anemone in this case would be colored down. So Calvin's got 4 corals in a 13-gallon tank. How often should he feed? My thing is every day. I feed every day. So somebody was asking about like mixed coral stuff before, and there you go, right there. Mixed coral frags. $10. There you go. They do exist, and I think, do we just go to 194? I think that's the end of the line before it restarts. Maybe. So, guys, last second chances to get your questions in. I'm going to say my quick thank you to the Patreon crowd again. So, going top to bottom on the list: John J. Jameson III, Toby Robinson, Bill Russell, Jeremy Altman, Ernest Wallace Jr., Dave Davis, Rigoberto Rodriguez III, Thomas Tarrant, Keith Singer, Skylar Korn, Sana Nomine, Puddle Aquatics, Amy Bruner, Juanita Thralkeld, Tim Garner, Harkins Aquatics, Diane Rishworth, Zara McIntosh, Brendy Camp, Gwen Nicodemus, Lisa Clow, Christopher Frame, Chuck Admire, Gene A. Van Voorst, Rico's Aquariums, Christopher H. Curry, Alan Jackson, Kevin Cortez, scrolling, Trevor Joseph Overbeck, Ryan Kern, and that's it. So thanks to the Patreon crowd for supporting Tidal Gardens. Okay. So I see people talking about the clams. The larger the clam, the more likely that it's going to survive. Like the really small clams are very delicate. Let's see. B. Spieg. Do clove polyps become a fast-growing pest like Xenia? No. No, clove polyps are actually kind of slow-growing, if anything. They will spread, but so a lot of soft corals get the reputation for being crazy fast-growing, but a lot of them are actually pretty slow. Having said that, so there's clove polyps, and then there's blue clove polyps, which aren't actually clove polyps at all. There's something else, but they're called blue cloves. Blue clove polyps are very fast-growing, and they can cover all your rocks. Marius Stark, a bit late to the party. You made it though. But all I wanted to say is stay safe, help those in need, and take care of yourself. Testing times, but we'll get through this. Yeah, pretty much I've kind of I've gone with the mentality that my #1 job is just to stay alive. So we're gonna work on that. JS, Than, do you have any clams for sale at the moment? We do not. So we don't do well with clams at all. Like the way that we do maintenance, the chemicals that we use, the way that we move stuff around, all of those things are bad for clams. So we don't mess with it. Yeah. Like, but by the time that we would sell them all, we would just be barely breaking even, because we would like get a whole bunch. Over time, half of them would die, and we would be lucky to sell the remaining half, and then we would just break even on that whole thing. It's like that's not exactly great. So, I mean, the breaking even stuff, whatever. But like, I don't really just want to kill half the clams we buy. So let's see. My sarcophyte needs pruning soon. You still recommend rubber bands for the frags, or did you find a better way? Well, we are fortunate in that we have some tanks that really have nothing in them. So we can just put a whole bunch of rubble down and then throw frags of leather in there. They eventually stick to stuff, and then we start to then take that and then glue that to a bigger piece of substrate. So that's probably the absolute best way to handle it, but it's not something that everybody has access to. So Will Nelson, what are some good corals in a nano tank other than Zoas? Love your vids. Oh, appreciate it. So you're really just looking for something that's not going to be super fast growing or super hostile. A lot of things can fall into that category, but those are like the criteria that I would look for. Yeah, a lot of things. So just off the top, it depends on what you like. But if it were me, I like stuff like not Acanthophilia. I want to say Acanthastrea, but like acans and Micromusa, Blastomusa, I think all those are very cool. Diacanthus, you still planning on incorporating some clams within the new building? We might give it a try, but like I said, we suck at it. We suck. Than, do corals need white, green, and red light, or can we run blue? So, okay, arguing with Luke about this, but I think corals benefit from all of it. He is Mr. Blue light and only blue light, and I'm like, there's degrees of blue light, because like we have some tanks that are like all blue, and if you take that polyp and put it into a daylight color tank, that coral looks like garbage. It only looks good under blue. So I am more for daylight spectrum stuff, but I know some people are more, I don't know, they're just different. So, but like I said, we'll give all things a try. Let's see. All right, I think I'm more or less caught up. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully we'll be in business tomorrow or on Monday when all this stuff is supposed to ship out, Monday and Tuesday. But like I said, we're gonna have to play a lot of this by ear. I know for a fact that like UPS is going to be shipping. They are a what is it, like a critical industry or whatever the designation is. So my driver will be showing up. It's just whether or not like my employees can come to work and whether I'll be packing all this stuff up for you. So we'll see. We'll see how all this goes. But yeah, again, stay safe out there. Don't buy, you know what? Speaking of like hype, there's like hype corals, toilet paper hype. Don't buy into that. That's a dumb one to get into. So anyway, guys, I hope to enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hope you guys had fun. And I'll see you all next time, I guess, right? Ending the stream.